But I just wanted to, appreciate you jumping on with me today, and scheduling the time to set this aside and do this testimony that we've talked about for a little while. Um, so here, as we begin, I'd like to really just spend some time if you could tell us about, your financial services that you provide to people and what that entails.
Well, I've been in the industry. It'll be 45 years next February. So, I spent a lot of time in my career focused in the long-term care space because I got into it in the early 80s, the mid 80s, and I ended up as the director of marketing for John Hancock Long-Term Care nationally and was there for about 4.5 years, went to New York Life, had the same job there for another 5. And then I just got tired of the travel and joined a large brokerage firm in Clifton Park, New York, where I live now. And they focused on long-term care when the New York State Partnership was big. So we had about 6,000 brokers that would come to us for quotes, and we would do cost comparisons for long-term care. And then when I was turning 50, way back in 2007, I said, if I don't start my own firm now, I'll never do it. And that was always a dream of mine. So I went out on my own in '07, which was a bad idea because we opened the firm in October of '07, and then we had the crash of '08. And so nobody wanted to talk to me.
Great
I did not
timing.
have a securities license at the time, was not selling annuities. And my plan was to actually do college planning. And that was a market where we got a lot of people to come in the door, but none of them had any money. So
Mhm.
maybe we're doing the wrong marketing, but it just wasn't going to work as an ongoing market for us. In 2011, I decided to switch to retirement income planning exclusively. I got in '09, I formed my own registered investment advisory firm. We cleared through Schwab, and we started building a book of business. And I've been doing retirement income planning ever since, primarily. In January of this year, I sold that book of business because I'm going to be 68 next year, and that's the year my dad died. And I've always had that as I got to have things wrapped up, and just in case. My family history is not so great. I'm pretty healthy. I think I'm going to live a lot longer than that, but it's been weighing on me, and I didn't want my clients. I'm a sole practitioner, so I didn't want my clients and my wife and my staff to be up in the air if something happened. And I looked at doing a soft agreement where if I died, another firm could promise to take over, but there's no economic value in that, at least for
Mhm.
me. So we made the decision to sell that book of business in January, and ever since I've been focusing primarily on the retirement side, retirement planning side, as well as the insurance side of my business. And this is my first year being what I call in my book, Get Me to Zero, I call it free retirement. So free tired is when you're working part-time and you're retired part-time. So we're down in Florida for the first time in our lives. We'll be here till the end of March. Heading home for the holidays for a couple of weeks, but we'll be back just before the new year, and we'll stay here till March 31st and head back north. And now, with this system with you guys, I'm able to do everything virtually, so it's working out just fine, just great.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. It's been, it seems like things are going really well for you, and you're loving the ability to, work back home and then move down to Florida, and the transition's been really seamless for you, which is really awesome.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I was
so
I was a little worried about it when I first decided to do it, but it's working out. So happy to do it.
yeah. So throughout your history of what you've been, your job and everything and providing services for everybody, what were the challenges that you were facing with your marketing before coming to Mastermind?
Well, my marketing prior to the pandemic, I probably did 60 seminars the year before the pandemic, and we had a really, really good year. Just missed hitting 7 figures that year. And then when the pandemic hit, it was like everybody shut the faucets off. I had 2 junior advisors. We just didn't have enough revenue to be able to pay everybody. Coincidentally, one of them was a school teacher, and there was a death. Some teacher in his school died suddenly, and they approached him to go back, and it was right when the pandemic started, and sounded like that was actually a smart move for him. So he left. The other guy failed the 65 exam twice, and
Mm.
I couldn't afford to keep him on if he wasn't going to be productive. So I went back to being a sole practitioner, and we've been doing buying leads. We did not go back to the seminar market after the pandemic. I just decided I wanted to try and get good at doing everything online. So we purchase leads from various lead sources and so on. But that's a transactional sale, and I'm more of a planner. I like to do planning. So, what I've tried a number of different firms. A lot of them make big promises, but don't live up to them. And as you know, when we started talking, I was skeptical because what makes you different
Absolutely.
than everybody else, right? In fact,
Absolutely.
I had a firm that had a similar setup to you guys, where I was paying a consulting fee to do all the Facebook advertising and so on and so forth, and then of course paying for the Facebook ads. And I wasn't getting anything more than a name and an email. Like I didn't even
Mm,
get a phone number. And I had signed a 6-month agreement with that firm, and I didn't keep it because they just didn't live up to their end of the bargain.
mm,
So buying leads has always been a part of my business, and I still do that. Still buy
mm,
leads now and then. But instead of hiring a marketing staff person, I look at my deal with you guys as hiring a marketing person, only I don't have to put them on my payroll. And I'm getting the same, actually better service than I would, I guess, if I had somebody in my office that I had to manage and I had to, provide benefits for and all of that stuff to do marketing. I just kind of felt like this was a way to have an additional marketing team, but not necessarily housed in my office. So, um, it's working out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great that, to have, you and I work really closely together, obviously, as you know that. And then, we've got my team that I work with is kind of like you were saying, like your back office
Right,
team, and they can look into things and take care of a lot further. And, you don't have to worry about that or take care of it, or they're not on your payroll, but we're working for you, which is
right,
great, so it
right.
helps to have that extra team there.
Yep.
So were you trying any other types of marketing programs other than buying leads and
Oh, I've wasted hundreds of thousands of dollars since I started my company, I think, on marketing efforts that didn't work, or if they worked, they didn't work to the extent that I needed them to. Buying leads was always when I was at John Hancock in New York Life, we formed separate field forces for the long-term care part of the business, and lead generation was a big part of that, but it was old direct mail, direct response. That doesn't work so well in financial services for broad-based planning, and so when you buy an annuity lead, and there are some companies that I feel are better than others in that space, the biggest problem is many of them, you're not the exclusive advisor buying that lead. So I don't buy
Mm,
leads unless I'm the exclusive advisor.
absolutely.
And but still, most of those people are in a shopping mode. And if they're talking to more than if they've gone on one site where I purchased the lead, they've probably gone on a couple of others. And even if you're buying exclusive leads, the client's going to multiple places and asking for information.
Mm,
And depending on, how quick you get back to them and what they're being told by other advisors, you're still in competition to some degree. And many of them are not 100% sure they want an annuity, nor am I
mhm,
100% sure it's the right thing for them. And I still have my registered investment advisory firm. I'm still a fiduciary, and I
mhm,
still approach that business as a fiduciary. So not every person that comes to me for annuity information, even if they want to buy one, sometimes it's not suitable. So I was looking for a way to get in front of people with more money
mhm.
uh, at a better point in their lives where they're actually within the retirement red zone, if I can use that term, 5 years before, 5 years after, still
Yeah.
trying to figure out what they want to do. And of course, tax planning is a big part of what we advertise with you guys. And
Hmm.
people are very motivated to try and get out from under the tax man. So other systems, I mean, it's a transactional approach. Yeah,
Hmm.
you send in this request or you ask for information on annuities, tell me about it. And of course, I've developed many sales from doing that, but they're not planning sales. Most of the time, it's a transactional sale. And some people want that. I'm
Absolutely.
not that type of advisor. I like to really get to know my clients. Most of the clients that were part of the book of business we sold still have insurance products with me. So there's still many of them are still my
Mhm.
clients. There's only a handful that, I handed off completely. So, you guys are filling a void in terms of the type of clients I really want to talk to.
Yeah, and I'm sure there probably was a lot of chasing involved with purchasing leads and all that.
Yeah, I
Trying to
mean,
track people down and get them
yeah,
on a call.
you reach out to them, you send emails. I'm a big believer in using video marketing. I send a lot of BombBomb videos.
Hmm.
If people don't know about BombBomb, I highly recommend it. I do a lot of short training excerpts on BombBomb,
Hmm.
and I'll send people to my website for my radio show. I do have a radio show in Massachusetts that I just went back on the air 3 weeks ago, and that takes a long time to develop. But all of the collateral that comes from doing that show, we have a website for the show, and we send people constantly from the radio to the website. They can see video demonstrations of the concepts I was talking about on the radio. They can download some information. And we're trying to find a way to blend everything together where those people that are coming to Mastermind that might not be closed yet, or we're in the middle of appointment processing, or all the people that attended the workshop but didn't schedule appointments. We'll be approaching all of them with links to the show and links to the podcast. And there's a number of videos there that are free and people can watch them. And we're hoping that that's going to just raise some more awareness and mine that
Hmm.
big book of people that went to the webinar but didn't sign up for an appointment, but they're still in my back office.
Yeah. So after dealing with, lead generation services and all that and some of the other chasing that you had to do, what ultimately made you choose to come to Mastermind? I know, like you were saying, when we first met, you were a little hesitant because of other past experiences. So what ultimately led you to choose Mastermind and come on board with us?
Well, I think it was a leap of faith. I mean, I think going through the process of talking to you before I made a final decision and really doing my due diligence, if you will,
Hmm.
uh, led me to feel like you probably would be a legitimate business partner. Many of the people I spoke to claimed to be, but weren't. And I talked to you, I talked to Josh. We probably had two or three
Hmm.
calls like this before I made the ultimate decision. But I think it was opportunity um, for you guys in the sense that I was looking for exactly this kind of program where
Hmm.
people would see a webinar that I did, not some canned webinar, get some information, and then make a decision after getting the information they download, going to the webinar and saying, "Hey, I want to talk to this guy." And so, the people are showing up for appointments, very, very, very low no-show rate. In fact, if somebody's not going to show, very often we'll get a note from them saying either they want to cancel the appointment or reschedule.
Hmm.
So it's just like doing seminars. When I did seminars, Shannon, I would have for each mailing, I would advertise three different dates, three different events, and we were doing Social Security seminars. We were affiliated with another nonprofit, which allowed
Hmm.
us to get into libraries, which is where we had a lot of success doing those. And we might get uh, combined for every mailing, maybe 150 people,
Hmm.
maybe 80 households, 90 households over
Hmm.
three different events. And we would book probably 30% of those for appointments and close 30% of those, probably.
Hmm.
But the bottom line is I would write probably three new cases a month.
Hmm.
But they weren't all large ticket cases. And especially on the investment side, you have the same fiduciary duty for a $10,000 account as you do for a $10 million account. So we didn't have a minimum. And we did have a lot of clients that had smaller accounts with us, and that
Hmm.
became very time consuming.
Hmm.
So one of the things that I enjoy about this is that I'm focused now on the planning side, on the insurance side, on the tax planning side, and they can keep their current advisor if they want to, at
Hmm.
least in my opinion, in my situation, because I don't want to get back into managing money directly. But there's a lot of I've been working for most of the day on a case. I'm going to talk to the prospect for the second time at 4 o'clock today. And he's got $1.6 million in assets right now. He's 61. His wife is 58.
Mhm.
Very sure when he wants to retire, first quarter of 2028. He's had people pitching different things to him. And the first meeting was just, he was pretty standoffish when I first spoke to him, thinking I was just another whoever.
Mhm.
And it takes time. You've got to, you're over the internet. You've got to get a relationship going with these people and spend time to figure out what exactly they're looking for and what they're trying to accomplish. So after an hour conversation, I said, look, if you want to have a second meeting, I need you to send me this. That I have my staff sends a preliminary email with all the documents we need. We get it through ShareFile. It's all encrypted. And then I open a case file on my computer and all that stuff goes in there. And I start doing my thing. I start in the background, people not talking to him. I'm doing some analysis. I'm organizing everything into tax qualified, non-tax qualified, Roth, IRA, 401k, so that I know exactly what the picture looks like. Then I put it into my software, and I use Wealthy and Wise with InSpark. In fact, I
Mhm.
dedicated my book to the inventor of that software, Bob Ritter, who passed away a couple of years ago. And I've used it for the last 25 years. And what I like about it is when I get all the information, we start off with what I call present position. If you don't do anything,
Mhm.
analyzing what you have, if you do nothing, this is your likely outcome. And then it allows me to compare as many comparisons to that or to another strategy, compare strategies. And as a fiduciary, that, in my opinion, is the best way to approach clients to make decisions because you're just moving pieces on a chessboard with assets they already
Absolutely.
have, and
Mhm.
I can show them the impact of doing that instantaneously and have a conversation around that. So it's not a transactional sale, it's a planning sale, and they feel a lot better. In fact, just before we got on today, that same prospect has been approached by an advisor to do a Roth conversion using an annuity product. And he said, I don't want to talk about this today. I want to schedule a second meeting for this, but I
Mhm.
want your opinion on it.
Yeah.
And, I've already got an opinion on it after after looking at it. And it's not a great one, but, what that tells me is that there's now a relationship there. I've had two meetings with this guy.
Mhm.
And today is a presentation of what I think might make some sense for him.
Well, and you're building some trust and all that too, and
Yeah,
a lot of people don't, a lot of people out there don't want to be sold. They want to build a relationship, just like you said, build a relationship with somebody, kind of like how you were saying before, is like you built that trust with Mastermind and you have our team working for you. And that's what a lot of people, they want to build that trust, build that relationship and know that you're working for them to do the right thing,
right.
to do that fiduciary responsibility.
Yeah, you can't approach these people with a product, pitch. You can't get one of
Absolutely.
these folks that have attended that seminar
Hmm.
and immediately launch into some sales presentation because that's not what they're looking for. They go to
Hmm.
that seminar because they're looking for information. And in our business, everybody's got an opinion, and
Hmm.
most of them stink.
Yeah, well, I mean, and everybody's backgrounds and situations are so different that, you can't sell them because that's where that relation, you got to get to know them so you can do the right thing for their situation, which is different than everybody else's. So
Exactly.
I really love that you pick up on that right away. So leading into that, with the mastermind system, and you kind of talked a little bit before about doing some of the college planning stuff and courses, and the quality wasn't necessarily always that great. What are the results been, through Mastermind? What has the quality been like, and how have those meetings been with our system since you've come on?
Well, I mean, like anything else, everyone is different.
Mhm.
And I'm at the point in my career now, if I don't feel a connection with someone, I'm not gonna, I don't pursue people that I'm not gonna enjoy working with. I'm just at
Mhm.
that point in my life, and I don't have another advisor to, you know, dump them off on, if you
Like a
will.
junior advisor or
Right.
something.
So some people, frankly, some people are looking for as much free information as they can, or they're looking for me to give them a specific recommendation on a specific thing. And if they're not my client, I'll give them, you could do this or you could do that, but you're going to have to come to your own conclusion on that because I'm not going to take on the fiduciary duty of giving someone advice in a 15-minute call. Sometimes I'll have
Yeah.
people say, I just had one this morning, and it's somebody that I'm going to be meeting with from your system this week. Sent me a long memo that they want to pay cash for a house and take all the money out of their 401k. And they
Hmm.
want me to tell them whether or not they should do that. Well,
Absolutely.
anybody would say, no, you don't want to take a taxable asset,
Hmm.
$500,000 out of your IRA and pay cash for a house because you've got all kinds of other implications of doing that. From a tax perspective, they're over 65, so he's gonna have IRMA, you know, implications, the income related monthly adjustment amount for his Part B of Medicare. There's all these other things that happen. So my approach is, well, you could do that. Literally, you
Hmm.
could take the money out. Here are the consequences of doing that. Now, I'm not going to
Hmm.
tell you whether you should or shouldn't, but I'll give you enough information so you can make a decision. By the way, who's helping you with that decision? Do you have
Hmm.
an advisor helping you with that? What are they saying? What are your friends telling you to do? People get a lot of financial advice from people who aren't
Others.
financial advisors, right?
Absolutely.
Their brother-in-law, their buddy,
Neighbors.
their friend, neighbors, somebody at the cocktail party, somebody on the golf course, or, the pickleball court, whatever.
Mhm.
Here's what I
Absolutely.
do. Here's what I do. And,
Hmm.
um, very often when someone is giving you financial advice, they're trying to validate what they're doing. This is
Hmm.
what I'm doing. You do it too, you
Yeah.
know, and it's not necessarily the right thing. What I'm doing might not be the right thing for the next person. So I think
Mhm.
our job as advisors is to kind of separate the wheat from the chaff, if you will, and say,
Mhm.
okay, well, how do you feel about that recommendation? Why haven't you done it yet? If your neighbor said to do this, what are you waiting for? Well, I don't think it's the right thing. So that's why we're talking.
Yeah, yeah, I absolutely love it. Like it's kind of like the same mindset that I have with, I've got young kids that play hockey, and I always tell other families, so what do you do with your kids? Well, this is what I do with my kids, but this is what I'm looking for. You need to go find something that you're looking for and find camps that offer that for your kid. And that's how you get the best out of what you're doing.
Right,
And same with what you're saying. Like, don't do what your neighbor just because your neighbor said it. Like, is that best for you?
right.
So like I said, I have that same mindset as you, so I totally completely love hearing that when you say it. We've talked quite a bit, and you and I get along great. And I think a lot of it is because we both see eye to eye on a lot of those situations, and we both respect and have that. We like building that trust and that relationship with people, and we both kind of value that. So I mean, what are some, I know we've talked over the last several months, some of the things that you love, and you talked to me about like show rate and all that, and how the people are showing up and they're qualified. Like, what are some of the things that are coming up in meetings with leads coming through our system with appointments that you really do enjoy?
Well, it's interesting. It's an interesting challenge because if there's one super challenge I've faced working with you guys is that the assets is that people have money. You're not
Mm,
sending me, I think I've had two people that were not really stable financially, but the majority of them have a boatload of money
mm,
and they have tax issues. They know they have tax issues.
absolutely.
And everybody's talking to them about ways to fix the tax issue, but there's
Hmm.
limited options, right?
Yeah.
Our job is to show the consequences of not doing anything different. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Mm,
And people end up with a lot of money, but under the current law, you leave a large IRA to your family, especially if it's not your spouse. Now you're passing your tax problems onto your kids. Yes, they're getting an inheritance, but they're also probably in their peak earning years when they
mm,
inherit it. And now they've got to take that money out over 10 years, and it creates all kinds of issues. The stretch IRA is gone for non-spouse beneficiaries, and that's a big motivator for people. How do I fix that? And of course, if they go to a lawyer and they want to look at a trust or they want to look at different ways to do it from a legal perspective, it becomes super complicated
mm,
and expensive for the. And I don't know how other advisors feel, but I have many clients, both people who are current clients and people about to become clients who have done all of that legal planning. And
mm.
then when they have to implement it, it's a nightmare. The same
Yeah.
lawyer that did it is no longer working. The law firm was sold, the files with another attorney. The other attorney maybe didn't read the trust or doesn't hasn't met with the family before, and now they got to get the trust moving, and it's more complicated than they were sold it was going to be. We can offer some simple solutions. I have a lot of conversations with people about life insurance. I'm a
Mhm.
huge believer in life insurance and retirement. The marketplace has convinced people that once your kids are grown, you no longer need life insurance. But
Mhm.
life insurance is the best alternative to a Roth out there, period. And what I'm finding is people don't understand it and don't
Mhm.
understand the true benefit of having a 5, 6, 700,000, million, 2 million, working on a $3 million second to die policy right now with one of these clients because he's got $3.1 million in his IRA and he's never going to spend it.
Mhm.
A lot of these people, what you got to remember is people that have that kind of money are not frugal with their money. So they're
Mhm.
not, they have $3 million because they've lived within their means. And now the other problem is, well, I can't spend it all. So now what do I do with it? And
Yeah.
and those are fun puzzles to help people solve. And I like having the conversation, you know, and just being the straw man, if you will. So I'm your son, and I just inherited $1 million from my father from his IRA. I'm going to be pretty happy,
Mhm.
and I'll just say something like that and smile, and they'll come back and say, "Yeah, but he's going to have to pay those taxes." You're right.
Yeah.
Let them present the problem. So
Mhm.
what have you done, Mr. Prospect, to figure out a way for that not to happen? Well, gee, I want
Mhm.
to convert to a Roth. Well, if you got 3.1 million in your IRA, how much are you going to convert to a Roth and make it meaningful? If you convert
Mhm.
100, and so now you got $3 million left in your IRA and you earn 3%, you're going to earn $90,000 in interest. You're going to replace the 100 you just converted, and you'll be chasing your tail. How about if we
Yeah.
look at other ways to do this?
Well,
And
now you're
that's what we
starting to
get into.
talk about that emotional aspect that we speak
Yeah,
of so often, when we have our meetings and all that.
right.
So, but it sounds
If
like you're
people tell me
really,
they have kids or grandkids, I want to
Mhm.
know about them. Tell me about your kids.
Yeah,
What are they doing? How often do you
yeah.
see them?
Like peeling back that onion, like
Right,
going deep into the problem so you
right,
can get to the root of it, so you can actually, again, do that fiduciary responsibility and provide a service to them that's right for them.
right.
And like you said, your relationships aren't transactional. You're building a relationship, and it sounds like you have fun problem solving, and helping helping individuals, kind of find a better solution for their situation.
Yeah, and I think I still have challenges like anybody else. I mean, my big
Hmm.
challenge right now is I'm a numbers guy.
Hmm.
I like to explain things. Once I know what the issue is, I know how all the numbers move and work in the plan, but it's challenging to get people who don't do this every day to understand moving pieces on the chessboard. And I think a challenge in the video space like this is at some point you've got to get Mr. and Mrs. Jones on the same call. Very often it's a one, you're talking to either the husband or the wife or the one partner versus the other partner. And you've got to be able to get them to engage the other one because
Hmm.
that's always the excuse, right? Well, I talked to my wife and she said no, or I talked to my husband and he said no. Some point
Hmm.
you've got to get both people involved in the presentation so that just like you would if you were doing it one-on-one, so that they can both ask questions, they can both see the benefit, they can both see me, listen to me, watch what I'm doing by, I'll do a lot of, I'll go right to my software and share my screen and point out, here's the changes I made.
Hmm.
Here's the end result. What do you think of that? Tell me your honest opinion of that.
But you're opening that door though. They're
Right,
not just going to bring, husband or wife in.
right.
You're inviting them. Is there, what's your spouse's name? Are they going to have any involvement? Do they have any questions? What's their involvement going to be? Do they have any input? Let's do we get them into a meeting so we can all discuss this together? I mean, those are all great, important aspects that a lot of advisors will miss out on when they're meeting with people. And again, and I think it's because you value those relationships like I do and you care enough to ask. I mean, I've worked with a lot of advisors and they don't ask and they lose because, they never acknowledge the other person in that relationship and their, the participation in the process that they're going to have. and
Yeah.
they end up losing that whole sale.
I would say that's one of the things in doing online meetings that's a
Hmm.
little more challenging than when you're doing them in person. When I was doing them in person, if the spouse didn't show up, the meeting didn't happen.
Hmm.
Oh, I take care of everything. That's fine.
Hmm.
You know, your husband or your wife can have a cup of coffee and listen, but if they're
Yeah.
not there, we're not meeting. That was my
Hmm.
standard when I was doing it one-on-one. Now online, I will have some significant conversations with like this gentleman today. You know, he generally I meet with him while he's at work. And but today I'm going to say to him, we need to get your wife involved in this conversation for the next one before we make any decisions, because some of the recommendations I'm making involve her money.
Absolutely.
And you're telling me about her money and you've given me statements on her money, but I have no idea how she feels about that money.
Hmm.
And it's important that I know that, you know, and it's important that I know she's getting the right message. Not, you know, because it's hard to, how do you
Hmm.
take an hour conversation and go back to your spouse over dinner and say, well, is this three things? Well, what do you mean? And start asking questions, and now they feel like they're uninformed and they get rattled. So
Yeah.
it's important to invite the other partner, spouse, partner, whatever, into the discussion when you're getting to the point of making recommendations. But I think the big thing, the first meeting, maybe even the first two meetings, is really setting that solid foundation. I
Hmm.
always tell people my number one, requirement to work with me is not how much money you have, it's whether or not I like you and you like me.
Yeah.
But if I don't like you, we're not doing stuff.
Yeah, to build that relationship, just like we've been
Yeah,
talking about the whole
I gotta
time.
like them. If I don't
Build
like
that
them, I'm not doing it. I'm not working with them.
build
Too
that
old for that.
relationship and build that trust, and like I said, I can't tell you how much I do appreciate everything you say, because I have these conversations with a lot of people, but when I have them with you, it's more of a, not a directing, but kind of laughing and working through it, because you're already on that point where you understand that stuff, and so many others just don't yet. um so I mean, I mean, we even have podcasts out online about that stuff, that very topic, with Josh and Vince and everything there. um, but
Well, I think our industry, unfortunately, there's a line between transactional advisors and
mhm,
planners.
mhm,
And I'm not saying one is necessarily better than the other. A lot of, there are a lot of people, very successful agents, for example, in the final expense life insurance space that just
mhm.
10 transactions a day or five a day or whatever they do. That's what they're into. And that's fine.
Absolutely.
You
Hmm.
don't have to keep files on those people. I had a final expense call center. It's part of
Hmm.
my experience when I formed the business. And we were selling all around the country, but you're not developing relationships with those people. You're selling them a, final expense policy, and you do it over the phone, and you know,
And then move on
take
from there.
care. See you later. And they'll call us. We will send birthday cards and we'll keep in touch and all of that. I'm still getting renewals from that business, but people will call us when somebody dies and we sold the policy, and I don't remember their name. They're
Hmm.
in our system to get our, newsletters and all that stuff. But that's a transactional sale. That's not a client. That's a
That's
customer.
absolutely.
Client is somebody who, like this gentleman today, I think is going to become a client because he wants my opinion. What do you
Hmm.
think of this? I'm being shown this. What do you think? And my first answer is, well, I'll tell you what I think, but if that's a strategy you want to pursue, would you like to look at it a different way? And can I help you with that?
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Throughout your time with Mastermind and working within our system, would you recommend it to others?
I'd recommend it to people who are serious about building a client relationship business. In other words, you have to have a dose of reality. You have to have the ability to understand the sales cycle, especially when people have more money than you're used to working with.
Hmm.
It's not a quick sales cycle. And the quicker the sale, the less solid it is, in my view.
Hmm.
If you sell somebody on the first meeting, that sale is likely to fall apart, more likely to fall apart than someone you've had three or four meetings with, and you've had deep discussions about why.
Hmm.
Why do people want to do something? It's not so much what to do, it's why do they want to do it? Like this guy
Absolutely.
is telling me he's got somebody proposing this Roth conversion strategy using an annuity.
Mhm,
So my first question is, well, why do you think that's important?
mhm,
Why are you considering it? And let him tell me, where's the pain? Where's
mhm,
the pain on that? I took Sandler training at one time. You take them down a few pain funnels and you probe and find out how much um, anxiety, if you will, does this client really have about this issue? Because
mhm.
if it's just somebody else is pitching an idea that they don't have a good reason to do it, they're not going to
Yeah.
do it with me or the other guy or anybody.
Mhm,
When you're talking $500,000-$600,000 Roth conversion, you don't make that decision on a whim,
mhm,
and you make sure that you've considered all the alternatives, right? So this is not for the advisor who wants to, get leads and sell two people a week. This is for somebody who wants to build a book of business, I look at you guys as my third employee,
mhm,
even though you're not on my payroll, it's the equivalent in some ways of having a staff person working for us whose only job is getting people into the funnel. And you guys are great at that. And I've been very happy.
mhm. Yeah, and like you were saying, people that have several million dollars, it's something that's going to happen in two meetings. You gotta take your time and build their trust and build their confidence because they didn't build $10 million overnight. They were
Right.
smart about it, and they just want to make sure that the person managing their funds is also smart and going to do the right thing for them. And that could take 8, 9 months sometimes, depending on how if they got 10, 11, 12 million dollars. So there's always that. And so I think that's a great bit of advice for you to give to others, because it's one thing that a lot of people come on and they make an investment into their marketing and they want to see an ROI, right, that return on investment right away, but they're not used to working kind of like when you and I first started working together. You getting these high net worth leads coming through these appointments on your calendar, and it was trying to figure out a system of working with them and how to get through, from starting point until they do become a client, which can take some time, and it
It,
throws people off and
well,
not used to
I
it.
think your first job in this business is to disqualify somebody. If I
Hmm.
can't disqualify somebody from working with me, then they're probably a good prospect. What do I mean by that? I did have a couple in Tennessee that they've got $8 million, four of it in an IRA, four of it outside the IRA. They have no expenses, they don't spend money, and they just wasn't, they just fat, dumb, and happy. And they're like, well, if we don't do anything, how bad is it going to be? And I couldn't get them to have an emotional hot button. I did a
Hmm.
deep analysis for them on their investments.
Hmm.
And she did all her own investments, and she did fine. Somebody who's doing that is not going to drop everything and say, "Okay, you take my 8 million. I met you over the internet two
Absolutely.
times, and and I have no right to get frustrated if that doesn't happen. I mean, I wouldn't do it.
Hmm.
8 million bucks. I meet somebody online. I don't know anything about them. They saw my webinar. If you can't develop rapport, and I developed rapport with them, but there was no hot button. And when there's no hot button, there's no sale. There's no reason to do business.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to shove something down someone's throat that just to make money. If I treat somebody with respect and dignity that isn't a prospect, but meets all the other criteria, and I can't substantially improve their situation, but I can have a good, meaningful conversation with them and keep them on my drip list and send them a copy of my book or whatever. And I know there's going to be a referral from that person down the road if I stay in touch with them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's greatly important too, of getting your name and, hey, I worked with Phil Gallant and he did this for me, and he really didn't push me too hard, but he offered me everything I looked for every time I reached out to him.
A couple of tricks that I'll share that help us.
Hmm.
As soon as I can in the conversation, I try and get dates of birth, the spouse's name, and both dates of birth,
Hmm.
actual date of birth, and they'll go into our birthday system. We use send out cards for birthdays, and they just go in the system, and that day a card gets sent, 3 days
Yeah.
before, whatever it is. So they start seeing us. Then I want to get their email and I'll send them something. We have an email system where once a week they'll get a report on something non-financial, what your brain does while you're sleeping. You
Yeah.
know, are negative thoughts sabotaging your lifestyle? All of these great PDFs that I have in my arsenal, if you will. And I just try and keep my name in front of them. You want to get their dates of birth and their address. So I want to
Mm,
send you something through the mail. Can I get your address? Because people will keep what you send them in the mail. They'll delete what you give them online.
mm,
So if you can get an address early on in the conversation, say, you know what, I'm going to drop that in the mail to you. That might sit on somebody's desk for a
a
month.
year.
I
So,
just had somebody call me. Now it was an annuity lead,
mhm,
but it makes my point. We sent them stuff at home. I kept dripping on them and I sent him my videos, whatever. And out of the blue, he said, I'm ready to go,
mhm.
and we have so many people in our pipeline. And I remember having a good conversation with the guy, but I had to recall it. It was the last time I talked to him was September. We're writing the
Yeah.
business now, you know.
Mhm,
So getting information that it just seems natural and useful for a discussion, you can
mhm.
use to do follow-on marketing. And I think I'm still a big believer that sending hard copies of things in the mail is an effective technique.
Yeah. Well, the one thing that I think is very interesting, throughout this whole process, kind of, your recommendation is we're still always going back to that emotional connection, building that relationship at the foundation. And like I said, so many people miss that. So I love that, with your recommendation, that's the one bit of advice that you give to future clients of Mastermind is to really embrace that piece of it and see the value there. Because I think so many people miss out on that. And when they finally fully embrace it, they start moving forward and building that clientele base.
That's true. And I think another thing that's been effective for me with these folks, why did you put yourself on my calendar today?
Mhm.
And I just stopped talking, So if somebody says, well, I wanted information about, well, why do you need that information? Are you about to make a big financial decision? Where are you in the process? Is there someone
Mhm.
you're worried about? Is there someone you care about that you're trying to take care of?
Yeah,
Yeah, my wife, she doesn't understand, or my husband doesn't understand the money, and I want it as simple as possible. Or my kids, maybe they got a disabled child or grandchild. I want to make sure they're okay. Or why did you come here today is a very powerful, why'd you show up?
absolutely.
Why did you
It's
show up?
it's
And,
funny because
and
it's the
it,
simplest question to ask, and so many just don't get it. So,
well, they'll say, I wanted
mhm.
information. Well, why do you want the information?
Mhm.
There's information you can go, one of the guys that used to work in our long-term care office was a master at Sandler. I don't know if
Mhm.
you're familiar with the Sandler sales system, but he was a master on the phone and he would call somebody, would respond, let's say, to a mailer,
Mhm.
and he'd call you up and say, Shannon, this is Phil Gallant. What can I do for you? And you don't know me from Adam, right?
Yeah,
He goes, well, who are you? Well, I work with people to make sure they don't lose everything if they go to a nursing home. Did you call me because you saw one of our advertisements about how you can
Mhm.
lose 3, 4, 500, maybe your life savings in a nursing home, and you wanted an answer to that? I have a note to call you. Why are we talking? Complete reverse psychology. And then the client's telling them, well, yeah, that's exactly why I wanted to talk to you.
just to get them talking.
Yeah. So asking
Mhm.
people why they're there, and
Mhm.
they're always going to say at the beginning, I want information, right?
Mhm.
And my question is, so when you get the information, what do you plan on doing with it?
Yeah, just to see what their intentions are.
Right. But you'd be
Mhm.
surprised what you hear when you ask that
Mhm.
question.
Mhm.
Very often that's where I find out, well, I've got a financial advisor and he's asking me to do something and I'm not sure it's the right thing. Why do you think it's not the right thing? What's worrying you about it?
And I think it's funny sometimes that it's a little awkward just sitting there asking the question, then sitting there in silence. Because eventually they will start talking and they'll just keep it going a lot of times. And if you just keep going down that path, and like I said, we've said it several times, just peeling back that onion, to get down. Because one thing that, we find generally, if you get down the road, 2, 3 months and they're just not quite there to close and become a client, a lot of times it's because something was missed in the very first meeting and you didn't dive deep enough or peel back that onion, as I keep saying, to really get to the heart of that emotional piece so that you can present to them what they're really looking for, but if you don't ask questions and let them talk and kind of investigate and listen, it's really hard to get there.
Yeah, and I think one other thing that's helpful with these people is to make sure they understand they're not alone. There's
Mhm.
a technique in sales called the straw man, right? Which is somebody else has a problem. Rather than asking the client, I don't, directly every time say, I might hear inklings about something they're worried about, and I'll tell them a story. People love
Mhm.
stories. I was
Absolutely.
just working with someone else, and this is what their situation was like. And these were the things they were worried about. And this is how we approached it. But your situation might be different. And when I say how I approach, we did some planning, we did this. Well, what'd you do? You want
Mhm.
them to start asking you what you did, but also to not feel like they're alone, like they're the only
Mhm.
person in the world. People are ashamed sometimes to have to go to an advisor because they can't figure it out. Or they
Yeah.
they 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 know the wrong rules.
Mhm.
You know, a lot of people still think they got to take their RMD at 70 and a half. They don't
Mhm.
realize they can wait 2 more years. They think they have to take more than they do, or they're not sure it's going to last them the rest of their life. That's all they got for retirement, you
Mhm.
know? So,
Yeah. Was there any last words that you'd like to give to future clients of Mastermind?
well, I think that anybody who wants to work with I feel like you guys are a marketing company, not a lead generation company, and that's a big
Absolutely.
difference.
Absolutely.
But you're probably the first firm that I've worked with where I feel like I have a marketing partner, not
Hmm.
somebody sending me leads.
Hmm.
So many other firms send you leads that are nothing more than names, and you end up chasing them. Your
Hmm.
system, they've seen a seminar presented by me online, so I'm not a stranger to them. They've
Absolutely.
downloaded some collateral, and then they have they have the ability to control when they're going to see me because they can
Hmm.
go on my calendar for an initial meeting, and that meeting's going to determine whether we meet again.
Hmm.
And that's a marketing partner. That's bringing customers through the door, if you will. It'd
Yeah.
be like if I had you standing outside my restaurant with a sign, eat here. It's not that simple, but
Mhm.
essentially that's what you guys do is you do what you say you're going to do. From there, it's
Absolutely.
up to me. If
Hmm.
it isn't working, it's not because I'm not getting the meetings. You're providing the meetings. You're
Hmm.
providing the quality meetings that you said you would. And if I don't close them, that's up to me. That's my problem. It's not your problem.
Absolutely.
So
But
I think
I do try to provide as much support as I possibly can.
Yeah, you're a true pain in the butt, Shannon.
Well, glad you figured it out.
No, I enjoy working with you and Josh and the team over there. It's been a good relationship. The first real truthful one I've had in a long time. So,
Absolutely.
and there are a
Well, it
lot of people
definitely,
out there that boy they can sure convince you that they're going to do all these things.
yeah.
You're the first firm that's actually done it.
And I know that again, back to we first started this discussion and you had said that, the first, you had reached out to people and people had made promises you before and didn't deliver on those promises. And ever since we've met and appointments started showing up on your calendar, I know you've been really excited about, saying that, you guys are the first ones that have provided exactly what you said you were going to provide and that you were happy with it. And the show rate's been
Yeah,
great and you've been
yeah.
happy with the quality, so it's great to hear those things that it started out that way and it's continued that way and you're still satisfied, after how long we've been together now, so definitely appreciate that. And, I look forward to hopefully having a long relationship with you as well.
Same here.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time today, Bill. Thank you.
Okay, Shannon. Good
Have a good
talking to
day.
you. Yep,
See
you
you.
too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.